Welcome to the Fantasy Syndicate Podcast with your hosts, Joshua Poniatowski and Alex Taylor. Let's talk football.
Hello, and welcome to the Fantasy Syndicate Podcast. My name is Joshua Poniatowski, and we are going to be doing Week 3 start-sit advice today. As a reminder, we are doing a JSN autograph jersey drawing at the end of the year. In order to enter that drawing, all you have to do is be a subscriber and comment on the video. It could be a start-sit question. It could just say, good job. You could say, you missed last week. I hate you. Whatever you want it to be. We're giving away that jersey. If you comment, if you subscribe, then you'll be entered into that drawing. Let's just have some fun. Before we get into the start-sit advice, I wanted to share my method behind making these decisions. I am not a fortune teller in any way whatsoever. I can't predict the future. I'm going to be wrong weekly. It's going to happen. If you can find somebody in this space who is right 100% of the time, please let me know, and I will go follow and listen to them and see how to get better. I wanted to break down the start-sit logic on how I make these decisions. Number one is opportunities. I look at offensive snaps, route run, expected targets, carries, red zone usage, and really anything else that goes into determining the opportunities. If a player is on the field getting opportunities, that gives him a much better chance to score fantasy points. It's really as simple as that. The second thing I typically look at is matchup. What is the opponent's defensive scheme? Do they run more man or zone? What type of zone do they run? Do they have a lockdown corner, the shadow corner? What does the cornerback versus wide receiver matchup look like? What does the offensive line look like? Does the opposing team have an elite defensive line that could interrupt the quarterback? Things like that I really focus on and look at matchup. Next, I looked at talent and efficiency. These are players that are next level. They don't need to see as many opportunities to be as productive with their touches. Maybe they're better against cover 3 versus cover 2 and the 2 high looks. I try to look at talent and efficiency based off of a combination with that matchup. The next thing I look at is game script. One of the reasons why I include the Vegas lines is because it gives us a decent idea of what we can expect out of the game. Whether it's going to be pass more or run more based on who's favored. While these typically aren't always right, these are at least a way to point us in the right direction. When teams are ahead, certain fantasy players perform better, specifically running backs, because they get the ball more. These can help us make informed decisions on certain position groups based off of what Vegas thinks will happen in those games. Next thing, I look at injury and depth chart. This isn't just for starting players, but for defensive and offensive injuries that really could just impact the overall team. Last week, I was high on Sutton because of his opportunities, but also because the 2 starting cornerbacks for the Colts were just completely injured. Now, I whiffed on this, right? This was a complete miss because Troy Franklin broke out. But that was my thought process behind that decision, his opportunities, the scheme, as well as what we saw from the cornerback group just being decimated with injuries. The last thing I look at is kind of a combination of things. What does the weather look like? Are they playing in a dome? They're not playing in a dome? Is there some coaching tendencies that you should be aware of? Is there historical performance? Has this player ever broken out before? Have they scored more than 15, 20 points? Is there consistency or upside to this player? And, just making a gut decision too. Sometimes I'm just like, you know what? This one's close. I feel like this player is going to break out. I do play the gut into that factor into it. I'm not going to be right all the time. And I want you all really to make the best decisions for your team. But I do put a lot of thought into my recommendations, and hopefully, again, you find value in them, even though I don't always get them right. Let's jump into the games for the week. I'm sorry I'm getting this out a little bit late. The Falcons at Panthers. For the Falcons, their over-under for this game is a total of 43.5 points. Carolina is projected to score 19.5 points, and the Falcons are projected to score 24.5 points. Now, starting on the Falcons side, Michael Penix Jr. is a bench candidate for me, even in a extremely favorable matchup. We still really haven't seen much from him as of yet, and I'm not starting him even in this matchup, one, because of the over-under total and what we expect to have happen in this game. Bijan is a start, obviously, but the Panthers have allowed 141 yards in the game, small sample size, but he should absolutely feast. Now, the real more important talk is the wide receivers and tight ends. The Panthers run a cover 3 at around a 50% rate on defense. It clearly isn't working because they're losing games, but it has capped the passing and receiving upside in 2 games that they have played. Panthers also lose more games. The opposing team doesn't have to throw as much. It's simple as that. We talk about matchups, talk about over and under, we talk about what happens in the game script. That paired with cover 3 is really something to consider. Drake London, though, for me, is still a start. He didn't really produce much last week, but he's still seeing 40% first read on average, 30% team target share. Not scared away from a bad week 2 performance to bench London. Darnell Mooney is much more interesting. In week 2, he was option 3 on this offense, actually. This could have been due to chemistry. Mooney can do well against the Panthers, but I will be benching him until I see how the next week or 2 goes. Usually when a wide receiver loses time with their quarterback 1 in preseason or even early in the season, it takes time, a couple games at least, to get them ramped up, to get them kind of back into that scheme and that chemistry. And that's what we saw last week, him being the number 3 option. I am going to be benching him this week because this is only his second week back. This also might be the worst take or the best take of the week for me, but I am firing up Kyle Pitts. I'm starting that man. Pitts is still involved, even though Mooney and London were back last week. He saw first read targets of 31% in week 2. The Panthers have given up 12.4 points per game to tight ends, which is number 1 in the NFL. And this cover 3 is a big deal for me. Pitts has thrived in this situation that we've seen over the past couple weeks. He's getting opportunity. He's getting looks. I'm starting Pitts this week, and I'm willing to take the L if he does not hit. Moving over to the Panthers, I'm not starting Bryce Young in week 2. He ended up having 170 yards and 2 touchdowns that came in the last 5 minutes of the game last week. You should have better options out there to choose from. Chuba Hubbard is seeing elite volume. Rico currently isn't eating into his opportunities from what we've seen over these past couple weeks. And we actually saw Chuba took some of the passing game work. It's actually better news for him. His upside is only curbed by the Panthers scoring. McMillian might finish the season with 160 targets. Obviously, that's a gross overestimation, but it's crazy. With this defense and script always playing from behind, his opportunities for me are as good as Olave or Wilson. I'm viewing Tat as a high-end wide receiver 2 with wide receiver 1 upside. Honestly, as the season just progresses, if he can find the end zone some weeks, he's just going to have monster performances. I am benching everyone else based on their involvement. They're really just 2 touchdown dependent for me. Sanders did have a great showing last week, but he's only on the field for 66% of the offensive snaps. That's too low for me to start. This might ramp up and get better. We'll continue to monitor this, but I'm not starting him in this game. Hunter Renfrow only played in 3 wide receiver sets. This is another guy who saw plenty of opportunities, and maybe we will see this continue in week 3 because of Xavier Legette's performance. If you aren't on the field, you can't be as consistent of a producer. He remains on my bench. He should also face Billy Bowman almost all game in that cornerback slot. So it's not a matchup that I'm looking at or favoring. Moving over to the Packers versus Browns. The over-under for this game is 41.5 points. Green Bay is projected to score right around 24.5 points. In Cleveland, an abysmal projected score 16.5 points. Jordan Love is the start. As you need more of a reason than it being the Browns, Jordan Love has played his best football against man coverage. He averages around 0.5 points per drop back against man. The Browns have run a league-high 50% man through 2 weeks. The only thing I'm really worried about in this game is the game script, because if they get ahead too soon, then they're going to run the ball more consistently. I'm firing up if I have him as a start candidate. Next up is Josh Jacobs. He is definitely a start. And he should be looked at as a running back 1 moving forward, in my opinion. He's on pace again to see over 350 opportunities just on the ground. He did pop up on the injury report this week. This is really something that you need to monitor. I haven't seen a report yet on what is happening, but it could be a low ankle sprain or a high ankle sprain. Obviously, low ankle is better than high. So this is just something that you definitely need to monitor. Another thing to be aware of is that the Browns just held King Henry to 23 yards on the ground in week 1 and Chase Brown to 43. I get if you are hesitant to start Josh Jacobs. However, it seems unlikely that you're going to have another top 10, top 15 running back to plug in Jacobs' place. I'm riding with him. And then the last reason I want to ride with him is because he is currently trying to break LaDainian Tomlinson's touchdown record. and this game would tie that record. I completely see the Green Bay Packers scheming opportunities around the goal line to get him to that record. I know a lot of people are saying, well, he might be touchdown dependent this week. I get that from a Browns defense, but I also understand that there's a record to be broken from LT, and I think that is going to have him see at least a touchdown this week and then next week to break that record. I'm riding with Josh Jacobs. The entire wide receiver room for me is getting benched on Green Bay. One of their wide receivers will probably pop off, but really it's a dice roll. From a scheme standpoint, Wicks should benefit the most based off of the defensive scheme. Matthew Golden also has some potential, but benching based on what we've seen out of that room and how spread around the love is. Tucker Kraft, for me, is a start. He's a wide receiver 1. He has had his most offensive snaps, most route runs last week. He's still a part of the wide receiver and tight end rotation, but because he's a tight end, he's seeing more opportunities. He's on the field, and honestly, he just brings value. I am worried about the Browns not being able to keep up. They have only allowed 5.2 fantasy points on average a game to tight ends, but he should be involved enough to at least be considered a starter. And let's be honest, you're not benching Kraft after last week. Moving into the Browns, so either one of two things are going to happen this week. First, the logical thing is that the Browns can't do anything on offense, and everyone's fantasy points are earned in garbage time. So that's the first thing, because the Green Bay Packers have one of the best defenses in the league. The second thing, and this is the one that's going to defy laws of logic, we essentially see a shootout out of this game. I'm going to go with the Browns can't do anything because I like to use logic, but the football gods have a sick sense of humor. What I will say is that Joe Flacco shreds cover 3, who Green Bay has played at around a 32% rate. Flacco might be able to find success. I just don't think he will have time to pass the ball. The Browns still have one of the worst offensive lines, and Green Bay has Devontae Wyatt, who actually has more pressures than Micah Parsons, which that's telling you something. I feel like he's just going to be pressured all game and really not going to be able to do much. I'm benching everybody else if I have that option, including the tight ends. The Packers defense has let Washington and the Lions, two of the best defenses in the league, to 98 yards rushing through 2 weeks, 225 passing yards a game, and only 3 touchdowns, 2 of which came in the fourth quarter during garbage time. This is why I'm benching everyone, because of that defense, that matchup, and what we're going to see. Next up, we have the Texans versus the Jaguars. The over-under total for this game is 44 points. Houston is projected to score right around 21.5, as well as Jacksonville is projected to score right around 22.5. I honestly might end up getting burned on this one, but I am benching Trevor Lawrence. Last week was a product of great play calling and a better wide receiver play. I might have to eventually just ignore how good he is and just trust the coaching and the weapons. Through 2 weeks, his completion percentage over expected is negative 4.2%. He plays the best against cover 3, which the Texans do run at a 42% rate, which is why I might be getting burned. I could see him being a low-end QB2 with upside due to the scheme, but I'm still not starting him. He just hasn't looked good enough for me to feel confident plugging him into my lineup. Brian Thomas Jr. is a start. He's seen 9.5 targets weekly. He's T-Law's first read. The squeaky wheel gets the oil, and BTJ should be the squeaky wheel this week due to 2 weak performances and all the doubt that's been floating around really the league as well as the fantasy community. So I'm firing up Brian Thomas Jr. Next up, we have Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter cannot be trusted, unfortunately. While he has been T-Law's number 2 first read target, he did find some success in week 1 against the Panthers, league high cover 3, and that might be he breaks out, but I'm still benching him. In week 2, we saw Hunter lose offensive snaps to help really fill in for the defense. Every week, this could happen. This is unpredictable. He is a dice roll. Even with a great matchup for him based on the coverage that the Texans play, I'm benching Travis Hunter. Brenton Strange is a streaming tight end for me. For the same reason, I am starting Pitts. He should see opportunities due to defensive scheme. The downside is that he is truly the option 4 at the moment in first read. He is a much riskier tight end play, but he is on my list as a streaming option. ETN is getting the start. He is a volume running back who still commands the backfield. He's a low-end running back too until we see Tootin take more of his playing time, but that hasn't happened yet. But keep an eye on it. If you don't have Tootin and he's available in your league, he needs to be rostered because see big things for this guy moving forward. For the Texans, CJ Stroud is a bench. But for me, this is the first game I'm actually excited to watch him play this year. Everyone thinks CJ is cooked at this point, but he's faced some of the best defensive lines in the NFL in week 1 and 2, and he has no offensive line. This matchup really is going to be more realistic for him as far as what we should expect moving forward. I'm still benching him, though. This should be a much better game for CJ based on the past 2 weeks matchups. Nick Chubb, I am benching. Woody Marks is a guy I am high on. I was high on to start the season, and last week he actually ate into Chubb's workload. Chubb saw a 50-50 split with the 2 other backs. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Woody maybe take a little bit more snaps this game. He is a great blocker, and he has the potential to play a Joe Mixon role. If he is on waivers, this is another guy I'm consider stashing if I have space, especially before this game. Nico Collins is a start, 28% team target share, 31% first read is really all you need to know. And again, I expect CJ to do much better in this matchup. I am benching everyone else due to usage and really just how the ball has been spread around between those players. Going into the Bengals at Vikings, for the Bengals, as I was updating this document, it really hurt my soul to delete Joe Burrow's name from this list. Next man up is Jake Browning. I was considering him as a streaming option this week. He is honestly an intriguing quarterback simply because he has Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Chase Brown to help be productive. And when he did plug in last year, he was a productive quarterback for the most part, but this is only his first week on the field. I'm not there just yet. Jamar Chase is a start in 2023 with Browning. Chase saw an average of 8.2 targets, 6 receptions, 71 receiving yards, and right around 13.9 PPR points a game. I'm not fading Chase even with the Browning situation. T. Higgins is still a start for me, but he is a much lower end wide receiver 2. He's honestly creeping in the wide receiver 3 range for me. With Browning at quarterback, he only saw 5.7 targets a game, 3.5 receptions, and 60 receiving yards with a 10.5 point per game finish. He was much more touchdown dependent than Jamar. That's what you'd be really betting on with T. And with Browning at quarterback, as you can see with the over-under and Cincinnati being projected to score 19.5 points, their touchdown and their offense upside is capped a little bit. Chase Brown is a start. He saw 100% of the running back opportunities in week 2. I don't care about Burrow or the defense, honestly, or really anything else. It doesn't get better than 100%, so start him. Also, the Vikings defense, based on gap schemes and runs, are favorable for Chase Brown. I expect a bounce back this week. Everyone else is getting benched for me on the Bengals, and I guess the only guy left is Mike Gesicki. But he's getting benched simply due to opportunities, not seeing enough. Moving over to the Vikings, J.J. McCarthy is out with an injury. Carson Wentz gets the nod. I need to update this on my document. I thought I did. Even though the Vikings have a great offensive line, they are down to their 3rd string left tackle. Wentz obviously isn't very mobile at his age. Trey Hendrickson should be able to terrorize him. He's leading the league in pressures right now. I am not starting Wentz. Aaron Jones is out and being placed on the IR. If you drafted Jordan Mason, you are about to find out what he is really worth. There have been murmurs and everyone's been talking, coaching staff, players, everyone in the fantasy community, that he will see just an absolutely insane usage this week, which might happen. He is absolutely a start, but for me, I'm looking at him more as a solid running back 2 with potential running back upside. I'm not getting crazy just yet until we see what happens this week. Justin Jefferson is a start. Wentz is a veteran who should be able to process defenses better than JJ at this point in his career. He is also willing to push the ball down the field more consistently and force it to his playmakers based off history and what we've seen. He doesn't really scramble much. JJ should be his main target guy, so I'm not worried about Justin Jefferson at all, and I really think he's going to see an uptick in his fantasy performance because Wentz is in at quarterback. Jalen Nailor is an interesting one. He is still a bench candidate, but he's floating around low-end flex territory for me this week. He has emerged as the clear wide receiver 2. He has been running as many routes and been on the field for as many plays as JJ. While it's really only week 2, the Bengals have struggled against non-primary receivers and covering the slot. Nailor has run 45% of the slot plays, really close behind Thielen. However, Nailor plays 2 wide receiver sets. He's on the field more consistently. TJ Hawkinson is also a potential streaming option, but he's a much riskier one, similar to Nailor. Last week, he lost snaps to Josh Oliver, and he was on the field for less routes ran than Adam Thielen, who only plays 11 personnel. But there is good news, and this is why he's a potential streamer for me. Carson Wentz, in his career, has a team target share of 24% and 32% touchdown percentage looking at tight ends when he was a starter. If TJ is on the field, which we're not 100% certain if he will be based on usage last week, Wentz should be an upgrade for him at the quarterback position, which is why he might be a streamer and is why he's somebody I am considering this week based off of the other tight ends I have on my team. For the Steelers versus the Patriots, the over-under for this game is 44.5 points. Pittsburgh is projected to score right around 20 in New England. 5. Aaron Rodgers is a bench. Jaylen Warren is a fringe flex, high-end running back 3 for me. He is still only really being played around 58% of the offensive running back snaps in week 2. This was an uptick for week 1, but it's just not quite enough for me to feel super confident in automatically plugging in him into my lineup. Yes, Aaron Rodgers did come out and say that they should get him more involved in the offense, which honestly might happen. And this is one of the reasons why I stuck him into my start column this week as a fringe flex high-end running back 3. If we see maybe 5% increase in opportunities, he becomes a starter and much less of a split backfield. We just haven't seen it yet. I am pausing a little bit is why he's a little bit lower on my running back tier list, but he's still a start. DK Metcalf is also a starter. Even though he didn't see a route greater than 15 yards last week, he is still Rodgers' first read target. He's the best option on the passing side of the ball. And the Patriots are just getting shredded by wide receivers so far this year. You're going to start DK Metcalf, and I hope he has a great performance. I'm expecting that out of him this week. Everyone else, for me, is a bench, just simply due to usage and honestly cornerback matchups based off some of these other guys. For the Patriots, Drake May is again moved into the start category. Even if you have a good quarterback, if this man is on waivers, pick him up and have him on your bench. He has rushing and he has passing upside. It's just too juicy not to have. This week, he is going up against the Steelers defense, who have given up the 6th most points to quarterbacks, and they have faced Justin Fields and Sam Darnold in that time. So nothing elite, but they've been giving up massive points to the quarterback position. We thought their defense was going to be great coming into the year, but we just have not seen that. Ramondre Stevenson is a sit candidate for me. It was a lot closer this week. Usage doesn't really dictate a starting running back role for me. Henderson is also a sit because he has 3 holding penalties last week. He was removed from the game script. I don't know what week 3 will look like, even though he does have the receiving upside. Now, if you are in a pinch, going back to Ramondre, we expect, because of last week's penalties, that Henderson's usage might go down a little bit, which means Ramondre's might go up. We know the Steelers have not been playing good defense. So if you're in a pinch, Ramondre could be a potential start, but if you have other options, I'm looking there. All the wide receivers for the Patriots are bench candidates right now, even Kayshon Boutte, who appears to be their main guy. Darius Slay and Jalen Ramsey should be covering him most of the game. Darius Slay has only allowed 4 receptions on the year, and Jalen Ramsey is really just a great cover guy, even though he was shredded by JSN in week 1. Boutte is not JSN, so I'm benching him. Stephon Diggs is a little bit more interesting because of coverage, but again, I'm still benching him because he hasn't seen a whole lot of opportunities, and he's seen an uptick in his slot usage, which is great, but he's still not on the field as consistently as I would like him to be to fire up as a wide receiver. He does have good upside, though. Hunter Henry was the most involved player on offensive snaps last week. He ran the 2nd most routes on the team, only trailing by 2 from the number 1 option. It was tragic for me to see Austin Hooper getting all those fantasy points when it should have been Henry. Even though his usage is good, he is not seeing opportunities. And because of that, I'm benching Henry. Diggs is starting to get more involved. If you have no other tight end options, he's on the field a lot. You could plug him in. He's worth a dart throw. But right now he's getting benched simply because he's just not getting the looks from May, even though he's involved in the offensive scheme. For the Rams versus the Eagles, the over-under for this game is 44.5 points. The Rams are projected right around 20.5 points, and Philadelphia is projected 23.5 points. For the Rams, Matthew Stafford is getting benched for me. The Eagles have held the Cowboys and the Chiefs to 20 points or less. They're playing good defense. They're controlling the game script. I am starting Kyren Williams, Devontae Adams, and Puka. The Eagles have given up 120 rushing yards a game, and they have faced Miles Sanders, Javonte Williams, Kareem Hunt, and Pacheco. Granted, 60 of the yards last week rushing were from Mahomes scrambles, but either way, Kyren should be able to find some success on the ground. I am slightly worried about Corum after last week, but Kyren is still right around the 75% usage area, so I'm firing him up. I am benching everybody else. For the Eagles, Jalen Hurts will continue to be a start. One bad fantasy week makes no difference for me. Saquon Barkley is an obvious start. Before I get into the receivers, I would like to blame Jalen Hurts and the new offensive coordinator, Kevin Pluto. This is why these receivers haven't been doing well. I'm going to go through some data points that I believe are very important. I'm going to slow down a little bit. First read target rate over these past 2 weeks has been 30% for A.J. Brown, 30% for Devontae Smith, and Dallas Goedert has also been 30%. We're looking at overall these players seeing 90% of the offensive first read, which you would think, wow, that's fantastic. It's not, unfortunately. In 2024, the split was 42% A.J. Brown, 33% Devontae, and 22% Dallas Goedert, which puts us at 97% first read target shares. We are seeing him spread the ball a little bit more around the offense. We're losing 7% there, which doesn't seem significant, but it has been. Now, when we look at the team target share split, A.J. Brown last year saw 31%, Smith saw 25%, and Goedert saw 18%. Through 2 weeks, it has been reversed. Goedert has seen 30% of the team target share, and A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith are both around 20%. In an offense that requires A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith to be insanely efficient as receivers with their opportunities, this is fantasy relevant, and the percentages ends up really being a killer to their offensive performance, and this is what we've seen through 2 weeks. A.J. Brown, though, with all that being said, he is still a starting wide receiver for me. I am going to go down with this ship, but I will say curb your expectations. In the playoffs in January, AJ finished with 2 receptions and 14 yards of a stat line against the Rams. Squeaky wheel is going to get some oil. AJ Brown should be schemed up some targets and see some good usage in this game. Devontae Smith has also moved to a very low fringe wide receiver 3 range for me. Another guy who's a little bit too risky. He's on that fringe starting, and if you have a better options, I am looking there. Dallas Goedert truly is the real winner here in this matchup, and he is a start for me. He was back at practice this week, and if he's healthy, I believe he is a great option. This does also hurt A.J. Brown and Smith. If Dallas Goedert can't play, this elevates A.J. and Smith a little bit. But every week, I look at Goedert as a 4 reception, 40 yards kind of guy. I also see upside in this matchup for him, and this is why. The Rams run cover 3 at 44% rate. In 2024, Goedert ran a crazy 3.21 yards per route run when facing cover 3 and had a 31% team target share per route run. If we do some just simple math here, Goedert should run around 30 routes, giving him around 13 routes run versus cover 3, giving him about 3 to 4 receptions and 40 yards just for cover 3. The math is telling us if he is healthy, he is a starter. We talked about that January game. He led all receivers in that playoff game based off of the Rams defense, which really hasn't changed much since that game. Mathematically, Goedert just makes a whole lot of sense. If you have him, plug him in as a tight end option. Moving over to the Jets versus Buccaneers. The over-under for this game is 44 points. The Jets are projected to score 18.5 points. Tampa Bay is projected to score 24.5 points. Tyrod Taylor is a bench. Breece Hall is a starter for me due to his receiving upside. Bijan crushed Tampa Bay in week 1. In week 2, Woody Marks and Nick Chubb both finished with 3 receptions on 66 yards, only 44 less yards than the receiving core that week. While Tyrod doesn't really go out of his way to target running backs, there's definitely value to be found in Breece's receiving upside in a game that we expect the Jets to be playing behind from almost all game. Garrett Wilson is also a start. I'm looking at Taylor as an upgrade from Fields. He should scramble much less, and you see a negative game script. I could see over 10 targets for him in this game. He's just a volume play, and the Bucs defense and their scheme is also favorable to Garrett Wilson, which I love. I am benching everybody else, though. For the Bucs, Baker's a start. Even with another injury to his offensive line, I'm sorry, Bucs fans. It really isn't going to get more difficult than the Houston pass rush that we saw last week. Bucky is a start. Mbuka and Mike Evans are starts. Kate Utton is a bench candidate for me. He is on the field 91% of offensive snaps and is running routes, but he only has 9% team target share and 9% first read target share. Somebody to monitor, but I'm not starting him. Rashad White is also a bench. He's only seeing around 30% of the opportunities. He's very touchdown dependent. I am benching him, especially in the game script that we should see. Moving over to the Colts versus Titans. The over-under for this game is 43.5 points. The Colts are projected to score 23.5 points, and Tennessee is projected to score 19.5 points. Daniel Jones is a start. I am starting him. I saw what I needed to see against Denver defense to make him a starting QB with upside. I'm going to be honest, this might be a crazy take, but I like Daniel Jones moving forward. I could see him finishing the year as like a QB top 10 quarterback, maybe even top 5 based on his rushing upside. I know that sounds crazy, but what we've seen out of this offense and just a team as a whole, it could be there for Daniel Jones. If you need a quarterback, pick him up. Jonathan Taylor is a start. Michael Pittman is a fringe start, and he does get elevated to a start if Tyler Warren is sidelined. He is currently the second option on the team behind Warren. Tyler Warren is a starter if healthy. He's seeing 25% team target share and 25% first read target share. Everyone else is a bench candidate. If Warren can't play, Josh Downs will absolutely see an increase in slot usage and target share, but he will be covered by Roger McCreary, which really curbs his upside a bit. In deeper leagues, Downs could absolutely be a streamer based on the situation with Warren, or maybe he just finds value individually against his Titans defense. For the Titans, Cam Ward is a bench. He has no rushing upside. He needs to throw for 225 to 250 yards and at least 2 touchdowns every game in order for him to be fantasy relevant. Tony Pollard is a start. 90% of offensive snap usage and 100% of running back opportunities, which is number 1 in the NFL, timed with Chase Brown. Don't fade running back usage, even on a bad offense. Calvin Ridley is a low-end wide receiver 3 flex start. He is still the number 1 wide receiver in this offense based on usage. The only thing that is missing currently is opportunities, and he's had a couple tough matchups through the first 2 weeks. This will be the first matchup where we really see Ridley in a situation where he should be able to produce. Everyone else is a bench. Felix showed promise last week, but I'm not ready to start him just yet. Moving over to the Raiders versus Washington. The over-under total for this game is 44 points. Raiders are projected to score 20.5 points, and Washington is projected to score 23.5 points. For the Raiders, Geno Smith is a bench. Ashton Genty, Jacoby Myers, and Brock Bowers are all starts. We're just looking at volume for this game and hope that a touchdown sticks to one of them. Everybody else is a bench. For the Commanders, if Jaden Daniels is healthy, he's an obvious start. If he isn't though, you ready for this? Marcus Mariota is a streamer. Risky streamer this week, but I like him. The Raiders have played zone at 90% rate, only behind the Dallas Cowboys. Mariota has rushing upside. Last year when he stepped in, he had 16 carries for 90 yards and a touchdown in 2 games. While this is a super small sample size, this is optimistic and why I like him as a streaming option. Washington has plenty of weapons with his rushing upside to make him a streamer for me. Debo, Terry are starters. Debo Samuel actually, I think, will benefit from this Raiders zone defense and concept. I like him over Terry if I had to decide between the two, but both are starters. Bill is also a starter, but I'm viewing him as a low-end running back 3 who has the potential to be a running back 2 and is touchdown dependent. This is why I know everybody's high on the Eckler injury, but Jeremy Nichols immediately took over the 3rd down and 2-minute drill snaps last week when Eckler was hurt, and He did the same thing in 5 weeks through the season last year in 2024. During those 5 weeks in 2024, Brian Robinson either did not see an increase in opportunities or he saw a small increase. Through those games, Brian Robinson averaged 12.18 PPR points per game, which is about running back 21 to 25 range, and 11 point per game in half PPR, which is about 23, running back 23 to running back 30. We haven't seen the increase. I know everybody's saying he's going to get all the receiving work and 2-minute drill, but we do not know that. And history tells us that that is not going to happen. So I'm curbing my upside for Bill. And I believe he's a little bit more touchdown dependent than some of the other running backs, but he's still a start in this game with a positive game script. Ertz has been an enigma for me this year. He's going in the start category due to his opportunities and volume he has seen. I'm probably going to get burned again with Ertz because I have not been able to iron down what this man is going to do, but I'm putting him in a start category for right now. Moving over to the Broncos at Chargers, the over-under for this game is 45.5 points. Denver is projected to score 21.5 points. The Chargers are projected to score 23.5 points. For the Broncos, Bo Nix is a low-end starter for me. He is creeping just outside the top 10. The Chargers are much more challenging matchup for the Broncos this week. We have seen them keep Kansas City to under 21 points, the Raiders to 9 points. Bo does have his rushing upside. Mahomes almost had 60 yards in week 1. There is opportunity there, but he is a low-end starter for me. Sutton is much more interesting. I'm going to agree with my counterpart, Alex. If you didn't see his short, he did a quick start-sit column in a short. We give you some insight into some guys. But for me, I am also going to be benching Sutton. The Chargers play one of the highest too high safety rates in the league. Sutton does not perform well against too high safeties. We also saw Troy Franklin break out last week. And for me, if I had to decide between Franklin or Sutton this week, I'm firing up Franklin, which is super risky because Sean Payton is a madman and Franklin could see his opportunities just drop and cut in half. But Franklin is the underneath guy, and he thrives when there's a too high safety, and we saw that last week. Franklin is on the field for opportunities. He really should be their main guy that they're looking towards. This is a boom play I'm looking for when it comes to Franklin versus Sutton. I'm looking upside versus floor here. Sutton can still obviously get it done with a touchdown because he is their main guy, but I just like the opportunity for Franklin based off of the scheme and based off of week 2 opportunity. And if Sean Payton gets a little bit crazy and says, no, we're not using you, we're going to split you with Marvin Mims, or we're giving Marvin Mims the nod to see what happens here, then it's going to be a total bust. You know, we saw what we did last week, so we roll with what we have. J.K. Dobbins is a start as a middle tier kind of running back 3 range. If you have other options, go with them. While he did see the majority of opportunities, RJ is starting to eat into his usage. Everyone else I am benching. Ingram is not seeing the usage we need to start the season. He is honestly a fringe drop candidate at this point. For the Chargers, Justin Herbert is a start. Even against an elite Broncos defense, the Chargers have been on fire. I'm not going to fade away from, a hot streak. The Chargers have been well over expected when it comes to their pass rate. His most fantasy production on a per drop back basis has been against cover 2 and cover 3, which is what the Chargers run about at a 57% rate. Amarion Hampton and Najee Harris are going to be a bench for me. The usage has been there for Hampton, but the production has just been non-existent, unfortunately. Najee has also ramped up his usage in the past 2 games. If you have other options, I would look there. Like many rookie running backs, you're going to have to be patient with Hampton too. Ladd McConkey, Keenan Allen are start candidates. Quentin Johnson is a much more flex and fringe start for me. Everyone else is getting benched. Moving over to the Saints versus the Seahawks. The over-under for this game is 41.5 points. New Orleans is 16.5 points, and Seattle is 24.5 points. For the Saints, Spencer Rattler is a sit, even though we saw him have 3 touchdowns last week. I'm not starting him. Alvin Kamara is a start because of the volume and just receiving upside. Chris Olave is also a start because he has seen 23 targets in 2 weeks, which is top 3 in the NFL. you want opportunities. Juwan Johnson is also a start. He has seen 97% usage in week 1, 95% usage in week 2, and he is actually the first read target for Rattler over Olave through these 2 weeks, which is insane. If you got Juwan, start him, and you got to feel good about that tight end start. Everyone else, though, is a bench candidate for me due to usage or some combination of opportunities. For the Seahawks, Sam Darnold is getting benched, even though it's the Saints. Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet continue to be a split backfield. Kenneth Walker came out on the better side last week, and Sharb was out for 2 different practices at this point. He has a foot injury. Kenneth Walker is going to go absolutely ballistic this week if Sharb cannot play. Start Kenneth Walker. For JSN, he's seeing the most ridiculous team target share we have ever seen. He's a star, obviously. Cooper Kupp for me is a low-end flex wide receiver 3 with potential upside in PPR scoring, specifically PPR scoring. While I like Kupp's value, I'm continuing to look elsewhere if I can, but he could be a fringe potential starter. AJ Barner, Torrey Hall are our bench candidates. Cardinals versus Niners. The over-under for this game is 45.5 points. Arizona is projected to score 21.5 points, and San Francisco is projected to score 23.5 points. For the Cardinals, Kyler Murray is a fringe starter. He has plenty of weapons and rushing upside. This is what we want to see in a guy that is a flyer. He's finished with over 20 points 40% of the time through his last 20 games. He does get a tough Niners draw, but he's a fringe starter for me. Marvin Harrison Jr., same situation. He is a starter. He's floating around wide receiver, low wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 range for me. Marvin Harrison Jr. is still the wide receiver 2 and should be viewed like that until something changes. McBride is dominating team target share and first read looks. He's sitting at 40%. The Niners play a cover 3, cover 4, and cover 6 as their main combination of defensive schemes so far this year, but they have played 20% cover 1. In 2024, this was the one coverage that Marvin Harrison Jr. saw the most targets, had higher team target share, higher first read target, better yards per route run, and almost every other statistic revealed data points that was better than Trey McBride. I am hoping he finds some success this week against that specific coverage. From now, he's staying in my start category. Trey McBride is an obvious starter. James Conner is also a start. We haven't seen any indication that Trey Benson is going to be taking snaps from him at this point. He is still considered a running back 2. I know the opportunities look bad the past 2 weeks, but all of the actual snaps and what he's playing on the field, Benson has not taken any of James Conner snaps when we look at the actual data and we do a deep dive. I'm starting James Conner. Moving over to the Cowboys versus the Bears. The over-under for this game is a massive 50.5 points. The Cowboys are projected to score right around 24.5 points, and the Bears are also projected to score right around 24.5 points. To save some time, I'm just going to run through almost everyone. Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, Javonte Williams, George Pickens, Turd Ferguson are all getting the start for me for the Cowboys. Caleb Williams, Rome Odunze, DJ Moore are all starters. I will personally be streaming Caleb this week in one of my leagues with the DJ Moore stack. I also think Caleb has the potential to be a top 5 quarterback this week based on the shootout that is expected. I do see it there based on this opportunity. DeAndre Swift is a low-end running back 2, high-end running back 3 based on usage and opportunities. Cole Kmet and Loveland are getting benched. What I will say is Kmet out-snapped and ran more routes than Loveland last week, but I really don't want to have anything to do with this tight end situation right now. Kmet could be a low-end fringe stream just because of the game script of this game, but we don't really know what's going to happen from an opportunity standpoint. Moving over to the Chiefs versus Giants. The over-under total for this game is 44.5 points. Kansas City projected to score 25.5 points, and the Giants are projected to score 19.5 points. Russell Wilson is a bench for me. Of the other streaming options like Caleb, for example, or Mariota, I feel like there's better options out there. He is intriguing if he's desperate. I don't see him putting up another 450 yards against that Chiefs defense. Tyrone Tracy is a bench candidate after last week. So is Cam. I believe that we will see Cam as the running back 1, but this will probably be a split backfield for the most part this week. This is a little too risky for me, so I'm benching both of them. Favors is a start, volume. Wan'Dale is a low-end wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4 for me, and maybe a potential wide receiver in deeper leagues after what we saw last week. they let Wan'Dale finally do something more than just take 5-yard crossers. Is this the new Giants? I really don't know. Or was he just propped up by 450 yards passing? Either way, unless you're desperate, I'm not firing up Wan'Dale. As for the Chiefs, I am starting Patrick Mahomes. I will be sitting Isaiah Pacheco and Kareem Hunt. The split backfield and the usage does not look great. Hollywood Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster are also bench candidates for me. Due to the game script, maybe they see some opportunities, but we've seen a lot of mixed bag out of those two, as well as out of Mahomes spreading the ball around. The only starter other than Mahomes for me is Travis Kelce. He's on the field. He's seeing opportunities. He's seeing red zone looks. He is seeing slot roll. That's all I need. Starting Travis Kelce. Moving over to the Monday night game, the Lions versus the Ravens. The over-under for this game is 52.5 points. Detroit is projected to score 23.5 points. Baltimore is projected to score 28.5 points. For the Lions, this might be an unpopular opinion, but I am streaming Goff against the Ravens. The Ravens have run man coverage at a league-high top 7 at 38% through 2 weeks. They've run cover 1 at 34% and one high safeties at 58% of the time. When playing against man coverage, Goff averages 1.03 points per dropback. If he can find one touchdown through the air, he should be able to put up at least 20-point performance. And how well he has played against man coverage. We also expect it to be a shootout. Ravens are favored, so we should see more of a passing attack from the Lions this week. I am starting Gibbs. Monty, for me, is a low-end running back 3, and he's just too touchdown dependent, but he's still in that fringe start category. Amon-Ra St. Brown, start. I am also starting Laporta, but I would like to note in 2024, his worst production coverage as a tight end was against cover 1. Laporta has been much more involved this year, though, than in 2024. I'm not stressing about that too much. I am starting Laporta. Jamison Williams is also a deep flex wide receiver 4 for me in that range. Maybe he could creep into wide receiver 3 territory. JMO is on the field, but he just hasn't been getting many looks. He only has a 13% team target share and 13% first looks. Goff has been looking elsewhere. He is the third option in this passing attack, and he's averaging 4.5 targets a game while also facing a tough secondary matchup. If I had an option, I would bench him and try to look elsewhere. This could be a shootout. JMO could see plenty of value and opportunities, but based on what we've seen over the past couple weeks, I'm a little hesitant. For the Ravens, Lamar, King Henry, and Zay Flowers are all starters. Until we see Zay come back down to planet Earth, you need to ride the hot hand. He's going to be in the lineup. Everyone else I am benching, even Mark Andrews, while week 2 was optimistic with the 80% offensive snap usage from him, up from 50% in week 2. He has not been involved. I mean, need a couple weeks of good matchups to consider starting him confidently. He could, again, have a great showing this week against the Lions that we expect to shoot out, but he just has not been involved in the opportunities. Even though we see an uptick in his usage, I'm much more hesitant to start Andrews. And of the streaming tight ends that I shared earlier, I would much rather do that. All right, well, that's it. If you like what you heard, give us a like and subscribe. If not, I just appreciate y'all hanging out. And until next time, go steal a championship. Later.